So, by very little popular demand, we're back. Welcome to season 2 of Me, My CTO, and I. Samsung Galaxy Note 7, which was brilliant. Everything was great, apart from the fact that it caught fire. This is going to come down to a tiebreaker. I can tell.
I think it is. What happens as a result is you create a pure meritocracy instead of one that is also conjoined through this powerful relationship kind of foundation.
This is my attempt at a limerick about the head of engineering. So here we are again, and I am joined, as always, by my great friend and co-hosting compadre, Sanjay Mistry. Welcome, Sanjay.
It's great to be back. It's so exciting.
It is. I mean, I'm going to ask you a little later for your summer highlight, although we are now, as we record this in November, slightly deep into autumn. But it's great to see you again. It's great to be back up and running. We've got some amazing guests coming up, of which we will talk more shortly. But listen, come back to you for a summer highlight. A bit of housekeeping first, if you don't mind, Sanjay, because we have got a sponsor. It feels like we're growing up.
I was going to say, we're growing up now. We're growing up.
We have got a sponsor. So I'm going to say a very warm welcome and a warm thank you to RP Analytics. If you're a data analytics or a technology professional, then RP Analytics have definitely got something for you. They are creating the largest data talent network in the UK, and they are very much looking to expand to Europe and beyond. So they've got 30 years of combined experience and access to the latest technologies. So they tell me that they are the go-to consultancy for many leading businesses already in the UK. So we're delighted to welcome them. Liam, Rob, the whole team, thank you for your support. It's very much appreciated for what is still a fledgling podcast. Sanjay, isn't it?
It is indeed.
All right. So the format today, we're going to have a wonderful fireside chat, I think, with Joseph, which is fantastic. I am going to take on ChatGPT. Sanjay, which seems to come up in every discussion that we have at CTO Academy. I'm going to take ChatGPT on in a limerick head-to-head challenge.
Nice. Oh, we've got limericks back. I'm really excited now.
We have, and it's partly to keep people on to the very end, because I'm going to tag that on to the very end. And of course, we've got our groundbreaking tech leaders quiz. But without further ado, Sanjay, your summer. Talk us through it.
It was good. I'll give you a highlight, and I'll give you I don't know if it's a low light or a highlight. So my highlight is a personal one. So as everyone knows, I talk a lot about jiu-jitsu and training jiu-jitsu. So about 6-7 weeks ago, I got to train with my eldest son, which is after 18 months of both of us going on this journey together, but separately. He joined the adults class and we had a good fight, which was really nice, he didn't beat me up quite, but I can see it coming. So definitely a personal highlight for me. And then I don't think this is a low light, but it's been painful. From work, we're going on our ISO 27001 journey. So the work started probably at the beginning of the summer for all the prep. I did the real sensible thing and got one of the team to lead it, and I'm not leading it. And she's done a fantastic job. And we passed our phase 1 3 or 4 weeks ago. We're building up to phase 2, which hopefully we pass and we get our certification. But it has been a lot of pain. There's more grey hair coming. But yeah, it's low light, highlight. I don't know yet.
Well, talking of pain, I mean, how much gusto did your son throw at you in the jiu-jitsu challenge?
No, he did. He really went for it. And he got me. He did sweep me, which if anyone knows what that means, it's good. But then I gave some good back as well.
Yeah. I love it. And how old is your son?
He's 15. He's 15.
So yeah, I mean, I remember I was once invited by a friend of mine to host a British Bulldog. Are you familiar with British Bulldogs?
Yes, I am, yeah.
But for those around the world who might not be familiar with it, essentially one person stands in the middle of an open area, and a whole group of people have to run past that person. The person tries to bring someone down, and if you bring someone down, they join you in the middle. So it's quite a physical event. And I'm a man of some mature years, Sanjay. and these kids were about 10 or 11, and they were physical. And I knew I was in trouble because when I grappled with the first one, my back went. But of course, I couldn't tell you. Being male and being middle aged, I couldn't actually admit to the fact my back went. That was a very painful exercise. Well, thank you for that. A couple of low light highlight for me. Obviously, low light sporting England crashing and burning in 2 World Cups. Perhaps we did better than expected at the rugby, but the cricket was an absolute disaster. And to my Indian and my Australian friends who are looking forward to the final as we record this, good luck. But for England, it was a disaster. For CTO Academy, we launched a new product, Sanjay, as you're probably aware.
Yes.
So we launched a new membership package, which has gone very well, although classic quote, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. So we are constantly looking at how we can improve it. But it did bring up in my mind, because we've done okay with it. Product flops. I thought there's a nice opportunity here, maybe to walk the audience through. So I picked out 5 product flops. See whether you remember any of them. Well, you won't remember the first one, Sanjay, because Bill Gates, this is a 1957 product created by Ford, and Bill Gates actually quotes it as a great use case for everything you could do wrong with the product. So Ford released this absolutely gigantic car called the Edsel. And again, for those viewing, we'll see a picture of it on the screen. So this huge car was released, but at exactly the wrong time, because the market was shifting towards smaller vehicles. That was the first problem. I think the VW Beetle, was just coming out at the same time. They'd failed to do any market research, very, very minimal market research, and the quality was terrible. They sent cars to the dealerships with faults in them. So the Ford Edsel was quietly removed in 1960. So that's one. 1999, Cosmopolitan. Do you ever remember? You know the magazine Cosmopolitan?
Magazine, yeah.
They launched the yogurt.
Okay, because you do. Why wouldn't you?
Can you imagine how successful that was?
Well, yeah, never heard of it.
So, can you imagine the product at the board meeting? The CEO says, "I've got an idea for a new diversification for our magazine."
I think they just sat there eating yogurt in a board meeting. I mean, that would have been amazing, right?
It's brilliant. Cosmopolitan yogurt didn't last very long. Google Glass. Do we need to say any more about that? Yeah.
Bit of a shame, that one.
Samsung Galaxy Note 7, which was brilliant. Everything was great, apart from the fact that it caught fire.
Yeah. That was a little bit scary as well, because the fanfare on it was huge when it came out. But
totally. And it certainly warmed your back pocket, that's for sure.
It did, yeah, in too many ways, unfortunately.
And the final product fail, I'm actually going to save for the quiz.
You really, really need to get out more.
Hi, yes, the quiz returns, and it returns with an all-European flavour. We're welcoming our friends from across the English Channel. I don't know, are we allowed to still say that in Brexit Britain, Sanjay?
I think we are.
Our friends across the channel. Welcome from Tartu in Estonia, Renata, and from Rotterdam in the Netherlands, Sanjay. Welcome both.
Thank you, Andrew.
Great to see you. We're always incredibly pleased and privileged that people are willing to put their head above the parapet with this quiz. So thank you both. Renata, if you'd be kind enough maybe just to give us a little intro about where you're based, what you're doing, and we always love to hear if there's a particular challenge that you're going through at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about the opportunity. As mentioned, I'm Renata Muro, a senior engineering manager at Rush Street Interactive. And Rush Street Interactive aims to provide the most fun, friendly, and fair online gaming experience in the Americas. And we have a diverse and very dispersed working environment. I'm based in Tartu in Estonia. We have another office in Estonia as well. We have 2 offices in the US, 1 in Toronto, 2 offices in Colombia, and we also have virtual hubs in Serbia, Mexico, and Malta. And engineering itself is represented in all locations other than Mexico and the US. We were founded in 2012 and in 2020 went public. And I've been with the company since January 2021. So I joined right at the aggressive growth phase, which often happens after going public. And it has offered a lot of opportunities to influence how we operate and how we work, essentially. And now the growth has slowed down a lot, given the economic situation overall in the world. And now I would call it like we're at the hyper growth phase aftermath. How to excel as a large company. We went from about 300 people to 800 in 3 years. There are a lot of new processes, a lot of structural changes that we've been through. There have been even cultural changes, but it really doesn't end there. There are a lot of opportunities for getting the best out of our company, and we need to find the most suitable approaches for us. And like a recent example of what we have done, we introduced a quarterly goal-setting process for teams to really get transparency on the priority and to align those short-term priorities. When we were small, business owners could just work very closely and directly with the team, so this really wasn't necessary. And of course, we need to keep refining this process further. There are also things like we used to be pretty office-based, and now we're managing remote hybrid teams like a lot of companies after COVID. I think we're doing a lot of things a lot better. Like we've adopted like everything needs to be written down culture. We use Confluence and Slack extensively. When we have newcomers, we try to, if there is like a place still for the team, or like a main location for the team, a new employee would be flown in to work closely in the same location with them for some time. We have team events where people are flown in. We have different summits on like different levels. So C-levels would meet up, but for example, senior engineering managers and our immediate supervisor, we're about to have our yearly global summit to go through different topics in a more detailed and focused manner. That was it for me for now.
I wanted to ask a quick question on how are you finding setting objectives? Because if it's the first kind of iteration or the first couple of iterations, it kind of is a fun period, is the way I'm going to describe it. So how are you finding that, and how's the team found?
It was definitely challenging in the beginning, and with our I think our processes might be different from what you're expecting, in the sense that when we're not only talking about aligning these priorities within the team, it's across the organization. So getting this business input at the right time, leaving enough time for product owners to really refine the needs that relate to this, those business needs. And then it comes to the team. And in the beginning, I think the t-shirt sizing was also quite a new thing in the beginning. And like talking about engineering in general, when I joined, we only started with we just started with story point estimations, for example. So there has been a lot of change, and the goal setting was also quite stressful at first, but we are definitely seeing the benefits, and the team itself sees a lot of. The teams themselves see a lot of benefit in the consistent tracking, because we also have like very clear methods for highlighting when something is falling behind schedule, and also highlighting the reasons behind it.
Awesome. Thanks, Renata. Satya, joining us from Rotterdam. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Satya. I'm head of engineering at Altruistic, which is a London-based SaaS scale-up. We help global enterprises with their emission reporting. And also, of course, that's step one. And then we help them actively reduce their emission, or at least that's the goal. So we're a very mission-driven company. I joined right at the start. I was engineer number one, also the second hire. So built the first version of the product, and then we went on a journey 2.5 years later that we're now at about 80, 90 people. I don't know the exact count. So it was, a constant change of basically everything, defining culture, defining processes. And just when you thought that you had it all figured out, then new people join. New functions join. Suddenly you have QA, and then everything changes again because you figure out that the QA can't effectively work. So we need to define those processes. Then the QA goes on holidays, and then you figure out we need more QA. These are the things that make this very interesting, at least for me, from my perspective. As a company, we've shown we're steady growth. So you also have these problems control your burn rate, how do you hire versus retention, for example. So you constantly need to hire new people to keep up with customers coming on board. But then again, the people that are there for a while, they also want to you need to keep them as well. So that's also a tricky part, I think, of scaling up. And another interesting thing that we've run into is when your team grows, you can have a lot of processes defined, documentation and how you code and etc. But still, especially as a startup, you're constantly in flux. You're in this fuzzy, innovative area still, and that leaves a trail of tech debt. But if you're growing fast and you're getting a lot of new customers, their focus is on shipping new features. And then, slowly we start to realize now we actually have a lot of tech debt and we need to change our practices a little bit. It's not unmaintainable at all, but it is we need to actually start worrying about these kind of things now. So, that's in short what I'm doing. I've been in startups 12 years almost, both as a founder, helping other startups, joining as an engineer, different roles. But after some crypto adventures, I decided to do something meaningful in the world, and I wanted to work on climate. So found Altruistic, and
Nice. I think what you mention around kind of culture and process change is really interesting, and I think that is the world as you go through scale up, because I think in your startup phase, culture is everything, and actually that's how your processes and the way you work is built around the culture. But as you start to scale, and like your anecdote about the QA, processes become really important. And I think there is probably what you're going through now is cycling your culture and processes and trying to stay genuine to what you were when you started, but your processes need to change. But it's trying to find the balance. So I can't say I can give you an answer, but I think trying to iterate and run cycles to kind of tweak your processes is going to be important over the next kind of couple of years. But good luck with that.
Nice. Thanks both. Thank you for joining us. Lovely background information as well. So very quickly, for those that aren't familiar with our wonderful Tech Leaders Quiz, that without doubt the best and possibly the first Tech Leaders Quiz in the world, we encourage our community always to go out a little bit more, to close the laptop, turn off the monitor. And so therefore the winner of this quiz gets a cash prize. Now, in deference to our European friends, producer James is floating, for those that are watching this on YouTube, is floating a €50 note. So it's not $50 today. I think that's even higher value for both of you. So €50 will be going to the winners. Renata, have you got a nominated local restaurant that you'll be spending this, should you be beating Satya?
I have a favorite because I like predictability and I know what to get from there. So it delivers, and I know that I will leave happy. So there's a nice area with different restaurants in Tartu, and it's one of those is Apparati restaurant. Restaurant, sorry, and it's a nice area, nice restaurant, and I will go with that one.
Cool, nice. And Satya?
Yeah, I'm actually the opposite. I like to, try something new every day. There are too many good places in the world with food. But what's important is like as a sustainable, environmentally friendly company and also trying to live a better life, I try to go to places where they focus on local produced, vegetarian. So there's this place in Rotterdam, which is called Rotonde, which is doing everything like with vegetables only and locally sourced, although I think it's going to be a bit hard now. The weather is not as good anymore, but I'm curious what they get of the farms and the
Cool.
there. Yeah.
All right, nice. Well, producer James has flashed both of those restaurants up on the screen because he's very good at these things. Right, we're going to have 3 questions. The first person to get 2 right. We have had quizzes where nobody has got anything right, where we just split the winnings. So rest assured that has happened in the past. But the first person to get 2 right will be taking home the €50. It's a very low-tech format, so if you think you know the answer, please just call your name. And obviously, if you get it wrong, we throw it back to the other person. So we have 3 here. The categories are Who Am I, Product Fail, and Acronym. And I've numbered them. And Renata, I'm going to ask you, 1 to 3, to select the first question. 1 to 3. 3, cool. Okay, here we go. This is the acronym. All right, good luck, guys. What is the full form of PDF? I'm going to have to, for those that are listening, radio silence is death. I'm going to have to call an answer in. Any idea?
Can we just shout or?
Good shout, go for it.
I don't know. Postscript device format or something.
No. I can see the struggle on your faces. No, portable document format. That's the one. It's easy when I know the answer, isn't it? Right, Satya, 1 or 2?
2.
2. Okay, this is Who Am I, which is always my favourite. So, who am I? This person was named in Time's 2023 100 most influential people in the world. Born 1985 in Chicago, a Stanford dropout. He was president of Y Combinator, briefly CEO of Reddit. He also co-founded a company called Looped. Perhaps more famously, he left in 2020 to become the CEO of a company that in December 2022 launched a groundbreaking chatbot. The company is OpenAI. Who is he?
Yeah, I know who he is, but I don't know his name.
This is going to come down to a tiebreaker.
I think it is.
Sam Altman.
Adam? Sam
Altman.
Oh, you already said it.
Yeah. Sorry, Satya. I broke in there before you answered it. All right, final question. Fingers crossed. I do want to split the money because I think it's always nice when you split the money, but I would much prefer to have a winner. So this is about a product fail, a very famous product fail about 3 years ago. Can you name this company? It was a short-form streaming platform that raised 1.75 billion. It launched in April 2020, and it closed in December 2020.
Twitch?
Can you name the company? Short-form streaming platform.
Twitch?
No. Renata, any idea?
But it sounds intriguing.
It's a great story, and when you go and spend your €25 each at these 2 mutual restaurants, I recommend having a look at it. They were called Quibi.
Doesn't ring a bell at all.
Guys, it's been a pleasure. You're not alone. I will be circulating this money. Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.
Take care.
All right.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Wow. That's a doozy for the first quiz of season 2. I didn't get any of them. I didn't get it. That was pretty tough. Yeah.
Were they tough? Okay. All right. Well, listen. Obviously, I can reflect on that. Apologies to Satya and Renata. Although, as I said in the quiz, I come out with mixed feelings when they split the winnings. I always think that's quite a nice way to do it. But listen, these wonderful people come and put their heads above the parapet, and then I fire 3 tricky questions at them. It's not really fair, is it?
You get brain drain when you're in front of it, right? As well. So yeah.
You get brain drain. It's very easy being the questionnaire. But listen, without further ado, undoubtedly a highlight of every episode is Sanjay's Fireside Chat.
Hey, Joseph. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to this chat. Like every chat, I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. So we're going to be going through like your experience, right? So trial by fire, your first big leadership role, and I mean leadership and not management. And yeah, I think this is an interesting subject, things that, people don't talk about this enough. So, yeah, thank you for kind of joining me and diving into this subject. So I'm going to, like always, I'm just going to dive straight in and start asking you some questions, right? When you first became a boss, a leader, right? So not a manager, so you're not a team lead anymore, but you became a leader of people. What was the first thing that you did, right? What did you do and how did you go about leading?
It's a really good a great question, because I immediately have memories flooding through my mind when I think about the beginnings. Because what floods is really the anxiety of it all. The thought of you're no longer, there are no training wheels really anymore. There's no framework. There's no established doctrine to say success looks like this and you're going to set it up in this way and all you have to do is execute. When you're a leader, I feel like the first thing that you experience is this immediate thought of what now? I did it. I convinced someone to take a bet on me, but now I actually have to do it. And that actually closely relates to your question of, for the folks that also took a bet on me, to be part of that initial, run, there's this exchange that takes place. Sometimes it's actually, based on a contract that says, if you do this, we'll do this, and you exchange equity or whatever it might be. But I think the more subtle art of that is the exchange of ideas and the exchange of promises, ultimately. That if you follow me into this venture, into this new world, you will have X, Y, and Z. And for everyone, it looks different. For some, it's you will have the opportunity to grow your skill set like never before, or you will have the opportunity to work muscles from a management perspective that you may not have been given in your prior role because of a variety of factors. It could be whoever's above you, isn't giving you the opportunity, or maybe you're too young, whatever it might be. For others, it's even more ambitious than that, right? It's the, do you want to keep, selling sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come change the world? And for some people, that is really the argument. It's come with me and let's do something about something. Let's leave a mark on the universe. And I think that was the first action. Ultimately, it was kind of coming up with the group that would surround me and that would not only test me in the sense of giving me the opportunity to thrive myself, but also I have the necessary, if you want to call it that, capital with them to say, hey, trust me that we're going to get to this place. And that place might be a personal career goal. It could be, a monetary goal for all of us. It could be a life goal. And figuring out what those are, I think it's such an interesting art. And, every time I think back about it, how much instinct went into it, it's hard to describe, because the pressure chamber of anxiety, can I do this? Am I even the right person? Oh no, did they choose the wrong person? Do I have everything that I need? Should I have waited a few years? All of that is kind of playing out at the same time, while also trying to figure out the infrastructure, if you will, of humans that it'll take to get to the goal. And I'll never forget that. It was just this ride. I don't know how else to describe it, because you think that you can plan it. You think that you can lay down tracks and be really prescriptive about all of it. But in the fine moments, each person has their own, and it's not issues ultimately, because, right, it's a choice. They're making a decision that'll massively impact their life. One person might say, hey, this is just not the right time for me. And you have to decide, do I press in? Do I use a form of argumentation to put their fears aside and inspire them to get to where I need them to be? Or do I say, you're right, it isn't the right time for you? And that is such a fine balance. It's like, I don't know how, I really don't know how to teach it or what to say, because in the moment it's all kind of finely tuned and you have to use a variety of different indicators to decide. But that's really what dominated the beginning, was getting a sense of the cast and getting a sense of their stories and how it all kind of, from the meta narrative of it all, how they all weave in and play a role in that narrative, because you can't really lock in without it.
I mean, so what's really interesting listening to you is saying, your first job as when you became a leader was to get that your leadership team underneath you and kind of build that relationship, and make sure they were correct to help you build what you were going to go and build. So I think that was interesting. It sounds like you had to negotiate with the team that you brought in, right? And how was that? How did you find that?
Really difficult, I'll be honest, because it's difficult to separate the relationship part of this equation from the goals part. And you feel a sense of obligation, right? And I feel that that's a dangerous scenario to engage in at any time in your life, where you are promising something that you ultimately don't have all of the control over, all of the variables that are at play. But you're using the force of your relationship and the drive of that person almost as the incentive capital to say, let's do it, and kind of using it as the chain reaction to get to the point of jumping in. And that causes all kinds of fear, right? There's fear on your side of asking yourself, what if I don't deliver? Will it destroy our relationship? Will it have impacts that I haven't even calculated? Will their career be blunted as a result of the decision that I've made? Am I being selfish? Am I not considering all of the factors? And I think that was always and continues to be part of this calculus of ultimately addressing and assessing people in their moment, in their life, and where they stand and where they want to go. And it's if you think about it as like a complex Gantt chart of talent and people and opportunity, and trying to just align it just so for a microcosm of a moment ultimately. And if it's close, then you have it. If it's not, you miss opportunities. And it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, no, it sounds it. So this kind of leads me on to the next thing that I wanted to ask, which is, you started this journey, you got your first big gig. It'd be good to kind of go into, like, so you started talking about what went wrong, right? And so some of the challenges that you had, and I'd really like you to dig into some of that. So, you're on this journey, you've built your team. What were some of those initial leadership mistakes that you made that you can kind of still recollect now, and they are lessons that will live with you forever? And I think also on the flip, right? So I think, a lot of people talk about mistakes and they go, yeah, this is the mistake I made and this is what it turned into. But it'd be really good to also understand, what did you get right? What was it about you and your personality or the way you approached people? Because, what's really interesting, what's coming out is, you treated everyone individually. So you understood people were in different phases of their career, their life, their, the type of money that they might need, in their life at that point. So it'd be really good to understand what are the things that you got right. And it sounds like understanding people in that sense was one of them. But yeah, maybe let's start with some of the mistakes that you made and some of the learnings that still kind of hold dear to you now. And then if you can kind of maybe talk about some of the things that you got right as well, that'd be really good.
It's interesting because this is a question of triumph and trauma. It's thinking through those memories and even continuing to think through it is this journey of self-discovery, because I think the answer to this question, it comes from the same thing. One of the decisions that I made early on was that I wanted to have this focus on relationship from day one, which meant spending a lot of time with individuals and talking through the process. That didn't necessarily mean talking through the technology approach or talking through the specifics of things that they were doing on a day-to-day basis. It was actually, I don't know, more like a performance coach, more like a deep dive into psychology. And that's what tended to be the case in those early on conversations, because we were all struggling with the same thing. Questions about our aptitude, questions about can we make it, doubts arising because of, to answer your question directly, because of the hundreds of mistakes that were being made every single day. Now, do those mistakes necessarily add up to dramatic consequences? No, thankfully. And, in the cases where it does, you don't really hear about those startups anymore. So thankfully they didn't, but that doesn't kind of erase them altogether. And I think that the consequence was, by investing so deeply in personal relationships, it led to assumptions being made about how to address the daily challenges of management for ultimately people that were very new to the role of managing and leading at the scale that we're talking about here. Because as you said, being a group leader or a tech lead in a pod, the stakes are very different, right? The stakes are ultimately, can we deliver on this piece of work or project that has been put in front of us that we had an opportunity to estimate, and that really didn't have to provide any feedback on, is it the right thing? Should we be doing it at all? What technology should we be using long term? And what if we make a decision that corners us? And those ultimately, those questions, while are dramatically important, if you don't have the framework to be asking them at the right time and going through ultimately a management experience where you can be asking those questions, they start to pile up, the effects. And I honestly can say that of the mistakes that if I could go back and wave a magic wand, it would be to not assume that everyone was going to learn the best practice, if you will, of being a professional manager daily and putting all of their effort into it. And in fact, almost no effort goes into it when you think about it, because you're doing your day job ultimately, right? When you're a founding engineer, you have to code, right? Your day to day is balanced between delivery and growth on the team level, your own level, strategy, whatever it might be. And I feel like what gets sacrificed along the way is the equipping and taking the time to equip effectively at every stage, because the difference between being a leader in, let's say, an under 10 person engineering organization where you're really tight and it's easy to maintain communication, to then growing to a 30 person organization, right? Simple jump, 3x jump, doesn't seem like a lot, but all of a sudden, communication skills, soft skills, the ability to influence, all of those really start to show and matter, and trying to drive any objective. And then multiply that again, going from 30 to 90, 90 to 100. The scale plays out in a way that is unanticipated, especially when you're not equipped to be even thinking through the problems. And I think that in the trial by fire, if you will, to use the theme of this podcast, that's ultimately what gets sacrificed along the way when you're doing this your first time. And that isn't to say that you don't learn those tricks. It isn't to say that they don't start to accumulate over time, but they come with scar tissue, with trauma, if you will.
I want to come back to your successes, so things that you got correct, right? But there's a couple of things that you said that I just want to dig back into, right? So one of them was, spending the time with people, right? So it was interesting that you said that, and you said it was spending the time, and that was a burden on you and a burden that you had to take. Do you think, I know what you're going to say, but do you think that was worth it? and why do you think it was worth it? You know, what do you think you got out of it? Because I agree with you, right? I think leadership is, you move away from the hard skills, so the technical skills, and all of a sudden it is about people and the psychology and actually use a word I use all the time. It's all about frameworks, right? You're not in the detail. You're trying to, build the framework that people can coexist in. And that's how you scale that kind of organization. So yeah, it'd be interesting what your thoughts are on the time you spent and the burden that put on you.
Yeah, no doubt. I would say that if there's any takeaway from this conversation for anyone listening, if there's anything that you can do to try to hedge for your success, it's investing in the relationships, especially of those that are in the circle closest to you. And the reason for that is because as much as you would want to invest in best practices and equipping and providing tools, you know what happens in high pressure situations? Moments where, for example, you have an intense disagreement, moments where your relationship is tested, where maybe something goes wrong and it was you. And what you need to play out is the grace to be able to get through a situation. If you don't have almost that accumulating personal capital of relationships that you've established from the beginning, that sets the foundations of understanding, of caring, of empathy, of knowing what this person is capable of and realizing that we're all, human and we can make mistakes. What happens as a result is you create a pure meritocracy instead of one that is also conjoined through this powerful relationship kind of foundation. And I've kind of seen the effects. In some cases where you don't put this investment in place, the loss of empathy creates a very clinical leadership team, one that doesn't care really of those around them and just wants to succeed at all costs. And what that does is it erodes the team mentality, right? The winning together, that it's more fun to win a championship as a group than it is to win an individual accolade of some kind. And I really think that the only way to do that is by investing in relationships from the beginning. And for some, it might feel really boring, right? It's understanding the lives of the people that you're talking to, understanding their hopes, their dreams, the challenges that they face outside of of their workplace, how they want to see their personal evolution play out, and understanding that so that when you map it out against the backdrop of your organization and the goals of the company and all of that, you have the understanding to be able to overlap them as much as possible and see their career and their personality thrive in the environment that you've created. If you don't care, right? If it becomes a clinical exercise and it's simple, we have these goals, you either can do it or you can't, then what you lose along the way is the humanity. And ultimately, I think that's where I start to realize the thing that we built along the way here at Trovata, especially from an engineering perspective. And I think about this often because we've built and rebuilt our technology many times over the last 5 years. So I don't have any, I don't know how to put this, I don't care very much about our code, right? Because I know that we're going to change our mind about it 2 years from now, maybe even a year from now. What I do care about is the infrastructure that we've built from a people perspective, because we actually like each other and we want to win together. And I don't know how often this plays out at every startup. And I hear stories about it all the time, but now being in that situation and thinking to myself, there's a world beyond, Trovata where a lot of us will probably do this again. And it's because of the fact that we built the foundation of these relationships. And that is ultimately what will stand the test of time. That's what will be durable out of everything that we've built. And that begins at the very beginning with the relationships of those that you build around you.
And I'm guessing those relationships are important during success, because it's interesting you're saying, how do you build it, how do you run a company? Do you build it on like metrics and KPIs, or do you build it with people? And I'm definitely like you, right? So for me, again, it's a lot of it's about people. But in times of hardship, trouble, when things are not going right for you, it is those relationships that actually help you as a leader, help us as leaders to kind of get through it all, right? You can kind of go, I can lean on these people because we know each other, right? We know how much we can push them. We know that we can rely on them because things are tough. And I think it works in the good times as much as it works in the bad times as well.
Yeah, I don't know if this has happened to you, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but I have gotten things wrong in the last 5 years. Some of them bigger than others. And in the times when I do get a decision wrong, I feel incredible amounts of insecurity about it. And the times that I have had someone on the team go out of their way for no reason, not because they were prompted by me, but because they saw my body language, they saw how I was describing certain things, and they just decided to DM me, or they decided to call me and say, hey, you look like you're going through something, and you don't have to tell me what it is, but I just want you to know, I think you're doing great. And then you it kind of snaps you out of that cycle of doubt, of insecurity, of, thinking you're an imposter, and snaps you out of it and reminds you, actually, I was put into this role for a reason. There are people that made the choice for me to be a part of this. There are people that believe in me and that want me to be in the position that I'm in. And I have to get through it. And ultimately that can only happen if you have folks around you that care about you.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I am, I get imposter syndrome all the time, right? I kind of, I have those self-doubts quite often, and it was interesting because listening to you, I actually got a WhatsApp from someone that reports into me a couple of weeks ago. It was a Friday night, probably like 8-9 in the evening, and he was like, "Hey boss, you looked pretty rough today. Just go and have a beer. You've got the weekend. We're on it on Monday." And it was actually just a really short message just to say it's all good. And it was such a pick me up, and to get that from someone who I really, really trust, and it was just it was good. I had a great weekend, came in on Monday, and we just ran at the problem again, right? Which is that's what it's about. So we've kind of meandered a little bit, and the kind of next area that I want to go into, and you actually mentioned it, is what do you count as real success? So again, I'm not, and I'm glad you spoke about, hey, you've thrown the code away a couple of times in the last 5 years, and it's not really about the code, especially when you're at that leadership level. But what would you say in the last 5 years you could count on one hand and say, this is the success that I've had? So as a leader, this is what I count as being successful.
Yeah, I think if I were to think of it almost like a grading scale, the least on my scale is shipping something, because it's so repetitive, and at first it's awesome, obviously, and it's extremely addicting when you realize the pace at which you can ship new code or ship new product or ship experiences that customers they love, and you get that cycle of feedback. So that's and as great as that sounds to me, it's at the bottom, because that's what we should be doing, right? That's the whole point of our profession. It is, if you're not doing it, then what are you doing here? Ultimately, that this is what we do. It's more nuanced for me because I've had and I don't know if every CTO has this opportunity, but in the startup that we're in, we had the opportunity to hire young people at our company, some right out of college, where Trovata is their first job. And they've been with us, some of them, the entire time. So at this point, it's getting close to 5 years. And I've gotten to see them as, young men or women and grow up literally with Trovata. and see the various manifestations of their characters start to thrive and become a new version of themselves, starkly different from when they came in. And for me, judging the ultimate, like if you want the prize that will matter the most, it's getting the opportunity to see individuals go from one version of themselves to a better version of themselves markedly through their own doing because of a thriving environment that enabled them to do that in the first place. And the thriving could be a lot of things. It could be they were given opportunities from a technical perspective to explore new things and showcase their natural abilities, their inane, problem solving or their technical prowess, whatever it might be. It could be the fact that we created an environment that felt safe and gave them the ability to take risks that they wouldn't have done outside of the environment that we created here. And because of those risks, they added up to create the person that we see today. And it's funny, I'm seeing their faces right now as I'm saying it, because I know who they are and they know who they are and how it all played out. And when we kind of will look back on all of this, I'll have that deep pleasure of knowing that you were along for the ride from the beginning, and you're never going to see a different version of life at a startup other than the one that you saw here. And because of that thriving, you're going to pay it forward. You're going to be a cycle for good in any other company that you join, whether it's in a leadership position or an individual contributor position. And that, to me, what could possibly be better than that? Because ultimately that's, you're gifting the next generation, right? You're creating opportunities. And, this I have had some time to learn about and look into and think of. The biggest companies in the world, they leave legacies. If you think of Apple, if you think of companies where they worked to create not only a brand, but a way of life that basically is designed to improve humanity in some way or another, they leave a mark. And their people leave that company and start other companies that do the same thing. And the cycle continues. And I think what could be better than that?
No, I 100% agree. And like one of my favorite books is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Absolutely love it. And it's that, the company lives beyond the founders and the owners and it has its own life, right? And I love that. And I love how you are talking about, paying it forward, because then that's the cycle, right? That's how we, as a society, as a group of individuals, as technology people, keep improving, right? And I do love that. I really do love that. Okay, so this is my final question. So I always like to end a conversation with someone with trying to get one bit of advice. So we've kind of meandered over, things that are important to me. And, this is a real, interesting area for me to have a discussion. And I can go on for hours, right? But for me, it's leaving this chat with one bit of advice from you, right? So, this is to kind of new leaders. So I've been a lead, I've become a manager, but now I'm a genuine leader. There's no one above me, right? So I am the person that people are looking up to and going, well, we kind of need answers, right? What's the one bit of advice that you would give them in their first leadership role? So what would you say to them if you sat them down before they started on Monday morning? What's that one bit of advice?
It's almost like talking to myself 6 years ago. And if I could, the one thing that I would address is what you have is enough. You won't have all the answers. I guarantee that. But what you have is enough. And it seems so simple. And obviously, as with anything in life, gaining confidence is half the battle. And I think that's what happens, is that by allowing yourself to take the first little crack at the foundation of saying you don't have what it takes, or you don't have enough, or there's some other gate that you need to go through before you deserve this. What it does is it dismisses the obvious facts that are in front of you, which are there's some other person or some other entity that decided you are enough for these reasons, and we're going to follow you, and we're excited about it. It's that's something that you really miss at the beginning, is that you immediately put yourself through this prism of what will they think of me? What will they think if I make a mistake? Instead of thinking of they're excited. They're thinking about all of the things that you could do, that you have in you to do, and building and planning based on that, not based on the possibility of your failure. And I think that's just the natural human inclination, is when you've been given an opportunity or when you've had a major milestone, is to almost take it away from yourself as the first instinct, because you don't think that you deserve it. And if I could kind of shake myself and hold myself, or anyone else that's listening to this podcast and is about to embark on this journey, it's take a beat, take a breath. This is your moment, and you're here for a reason. Enjoy it.
I love it. I love that. I wish you'd given me that advice like 7-8 years ago when I was having self-doubts. Now, I think that's really definitely a good piece of advice. Well, Joseph, thank you very much. That's been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as well. Thank you and take care.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Sanjay, I mean, that was fascinating. I have to say, there's a bit of a running theme here. Trial by fire. That's a nice segue from the Samsung Galaxy Note 7, I thought. What were your key takeaways
Joseph
from that?
was amazing to talk to. I think, first CTO role, but how genuine, for me, that was the theme that just kept coming up again and again. And, he'd obviously learned from having other tech leaders above him, and he knew very much he didn't want it to be the same, and he knew what he needed to be through maybe the issues that he'd had in the past. And I think the genuineness, the authentic side of him came out. And I think if you look at what he's built and the company that they've built has done, they've created a great engineering team, a great culture from what I can see. And Joseph just seems to put so much of his energy into continuing that. And I think that's really encouraging. And I think that's a lesson that we can all take from that conversation, really. Yeah, no, I thought it was another great conversation. And Sanjay, it's great to be back with you, mate, to be honest. I love the way you manage these conversations. It's just super interesting and beautifully handled. So thank you. And listen, we're gonna conclude with a little bit of a head-to-head challenge between me and ChatGPT. Are you interested in hearing about this? Let's go. Yeah, so Sanjay, what I decided was I think we all quite enjoyed the limerick from season 1, although I only managed to do one, and it took me a bit of time to craft that one. But I was crafting another, and I thought, well, I'll tell you what, why don't I just throw this topic into ChatGPT, see what it comes up with, because it's always on the, everybody talks about this, and has been doing for most of this year. So I'm going to give you first the ChatGPT limerick. Okay. And then I'm going to give you mine, and we're going to allow the audience to make their own minds up about what they think is the better option. Okay. So I plugged into ChatGPT. Give me a limerick about a head of engineering. Right. Okay. And this is what came out. ChatGPT's limerick about a head of engineering. In the realm of tech's innovative reign stands the head of engineering so plain. Well, that was a bit harsh, I thought. With brilliance in their mind and solutions they find, leading teams to create, not abstain. Nice. Not bad, actually. Yeah. I thought that was okay. I'm not happy with the so plain. I think there are heads of engineering, about to claim defamation for that particular slight. But so there we are. So that's ChatGPT. So does the winner of the limericks become my co-host for episode 2?
you in ChatGPT. Oh, yeah, okay, all right. So here we go. Here's Weaver's, and I think James is going to organise a clapometer. There was a famous program in England in the 70s that used to have a clapometer, which told you what was the better act. So we're going to have a little clapometer at the end of this. So my dear listener, dear watcher, dear viewer, and Sanjay, this is my attempt at a limerick about the head of engineering. A head of engineering named William Fuchs was advised to read leadership books, but ask him to confess what he really likes best. It's a day with ingested webhooks.
I like it. I'll see you on episode 2.
See you on episode 2.
Bye-bye.
See you then, guys. Thanks a lot. Me, My CTO and I was a CTO Academy production with special guests Sanjay Mistry, Renata Muru, Satya Van Human, Joseph Drambarean, ChatGPT, and of course our new and lovely sponsors, RP Analytics. Until next time.